Hello, my name is Don Harrison, skipper of the sailing vessel Sourdough. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the United States. I left the States on 10 July 1994 to begin my cruise, and it's a very slow boat. I've been gone almost 15 years and have only made it about halfway around the world, but I'm in no hurry. I've been fortunate that I enjoy pretty much every place I've been, so I tend to stay around a little longer than most. How many countries? I've never really counted, but probably about 30. Probably 30 different countries so far. I've spent the majority of my time in the South Pacific, going between Australia, Fiji, Vanuatu, New Cal, making a loop in the South Pacific. I made one trip, went north into the North Pacific and went to Tuvalu, Kiribati, and the Marshall Islands, and then back down to Fiji, and then back to Vanuatu, New Cal, and Australia. I seemed to like that route, and it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed my time down there. I was an engineer, a chemical engineer formerly, but once I moved to the city of Seattle, Washington, Seattle is very water-oriented. It's right on what they call Puget Sound in the U.S., and so I became interested in waterborne activities, such as scuba diving and then sailing. And once I started sailing in Seattle, I started with a little 26-foot boat. A year later I bought a 26-foot boat, and then about 6 months after that I bought this one. So it was something I knew right off that I enjoyed very much, and then I realized I could travel to foreign countries if I wanted, and experience that. So I started taking lessons, sailing lessons from the local, I believe it was the local YMCA or something. We started in little El Toros, which are little, like 8-foot little boats you learn how to sail, and so that's where I started. When I bought my first boat, I had never been out sailing, so but I've done that before. My friend and I bought an airplane one time, and neither of us had taken flying lessons, so we bought a little Cessna 150, and then we learned how to fly it. And then I bought a sailboat and learned how to sail it, so I kind of do everything backwards. Although I did learn to drive before I bought a car, so I did that in the proper sequence. But the good experience, I'll tell you, the good experience is just about everywhere I've been. People often say, well, which country do you like the best? You know, there's no place I haven't liked. It's been just a very interesting, just very interesting to go and visit various countries, see various cultures. And the thing that's really amazing is that the ordinary bloke on the street, the guy you meet, the peanut vendor, the guy who works in the restaurant, the guy selling fruit, everyone, the ordinary people that you meet on the street are absolutely wonderful. They're friendly and helpful and honest, and that's been a real experience. It's just everyone's really, really nice. I could say something a little different about politicians in every country, but I won't, because I still have to deal with with your bureaucracy to clear out of here. But actually, India was very pleasant to check in. The people were very professional and very easy, and no problems. But overall, from what I see in the various countries I've been to, there's a couple constants. One is the ordinary guy is very nice, and number two, the politicians, sometimes I wonder what they're doing. And that's true everywhere. Bad experience usually have to do with weather, and I suffered through, I got caught by a cyclone one year in the South Pacific, which was very, I actually wasn't necessarily frightening, but it was a very interesting experience. Probably, it's funny, the most frightened I've ever been was in very calm weather, not a breath of wind. I was right near the equator. I was on my way from Mexico to the Marquesas, and I was in what they call the doldrums. No wind, hot, sun beaten down, just like an oily sheen on the ocean, and I decided to go for a swim. So I dove in the water, and for some reason I thought, what am I doing in this water? You know, it's like thousands of meters deep on there. What is out here? You know, I mean, I was just somebody's lunch, and I really got frightened. I had this primal fear of something coming up from below and just eating me in one big gulp. And I swam back to the boat as fast as I could and climbed on board and never jumped overboard again when I was out in the middle of the ocean like that. That was actually very primal, a very primal fear. I couldn't believe how frightened I was. Maybe there was something in the water that I personally, that consciously I wasn't aware of, but maybe there was something there that my Neanderthal side could sense. But whatever, it sure made me get the heck out of the water in a hurry. And that's really the most frightened I've ever been. Yeah, the cyclone I experienced, actually I experienced two cyclones. One at sea, I was between New Zealand and Fiji, and a cyclone that was either very late or very early formed. I remember it formed in May, and it was called Cyclone June. I do remember that. That was probably in 97 or 98. And I kind of got caught. I didn't get hit full force with it, but I spent about 3 days really getting beat up. The seas were just quite confused, and not necessarily the biggest seas I've ever seen, but the most confused seas coming from like 3 different directions, really steep and choppy, and just beat the poor boat up. I couldn't stand below for about 3 days. I could just crawl around because I'd get knocked down if I tried to stand up. So it was very rough, but wasn't what I'd call all that frightening. Although I was very pleased to see it finally dissipate and go on its way. I was glad to get rid of it, let's put it that way. And then I did go through another much more intense cyclone, although it wasn't a cyclone because it formed out of cyclone season and was out of a cyclone area, was off the coast of Australia. And it was what they call an intense I think they call it a Queensland low. And I rode that out in Lord Howe Island off the coast of Australia, about 400 miles. And we experienced 86 knots of wind. And that was, but actually it was fairly protected in Lord Howe. The reef did a good job of breaking the waves. And I was on a huge mooring where the links in the anchor chain were about this big, and I suffered no chafe, and the boat just rode quite calmly because I had all the what they call catenary in the chain, all the weight of the chain, and the boat and I was actually quite comfortable. But it was quite frightening, the sound of the wind, and it would lay the boat right over on its side in gusts. So that was quite interesting also. But that, out of 15 years of sailing, that was 2 bad experiences. So that's not too bad, you know. They're few and far between, thank God. I really enjoy trying the local foods, and I eat all the local stuff, and I eat at all the local places, and and knock on wood, I have never been sick. You know, my motto is, if the locals eat it and drink it, I'll eat it and drink it. And I've been gone long enough now that I think I have every bug that there is to have in the world. And as long as I follow the locals' cue, I've been able to eat and drink and enjoy the local delicacies and really haven't gotten sick. Matter of fact, the sickest I ever got was in Mexico one time after I went to a very nice restaurant. Very nice, very fancy, very expensive. I ate there. That night I got sick as a dog. And before that I used to eat out of the back of trucks, and eat what, you know, eat everything and never got sick. I go to a fancy restaurant and got a bad case of food poisoning. So I stick to the local stuff. I find it safer. When I'm underway, of course, I cook all the time for myself. Truthfully, when I'm here, like here in Cochin, I cannot buy the ingredients, bring them out to the boat, cook them, eat them, clean. I just go in and eat. I eat every meal is short. You know, the food is so reasonably priced. You know, it's basically so cheap and so good. And if I try to make it, it won't be half as good. And it'll cost me more to buy the ingredients than it will to cook the meal. So when I'm in a little town, it's not a little town, but when I'm in a town like this, I eat ashore all the time. Now when I'm out at sea, I cook. And I cook curries, and I make chapati. I have attu flour. I make chapati at sea, and and open up a little thing of chicken curry or whatever, you know. So I have, food is not a problem, as you can see. I'm not wasting away to nothing. I know I'm only 61 years old, so I'm not really old, but I have some arthritis problems in my hip and knees, and they're not getting any better. It's not getting any better. So I'm having a tough time getting around the boat, getting up the mast, you know, where I used to be able to run around and do things. Now I'm finding, and it's not become dangerous, but it's become a problem. Also, I'll tell you, I'm tired of working on the boat. You know, 15 years, you're just always fixing something, and you know, I'm getting tired. And my problem is I have certain limitations that are beyond my capability, and so I can't do it myself, and I'm not rich enough to pay somebody else to do it. So the boat suffers, and then that becomes dangerous. And so you know, I either have to do it myself or I have to pay somebody to do it, and I'm getting to that point where I can do neither. So I just might have to stop. The one thing about cruising, if there's one thing I learned living the cruising lifestyle, is the difference between need and want. There's some things you want. Well, you can do without the things you want. There's certain things you need, and you need them. You need water. You need food. You need some source of entertainment, some diversion, just to keep your mind active. But a lot of the stuff that people have, they just want it. Well, I found that a lot of those wants, I really don't want it. And if I don't have the money to buy it, then I don't get it. And I can live fine without it, you know. So some people, especially back home, people said, well, how do you live on such a small amount of money? And I said, it's simple. I live like a bum. And they think that's pretty funny, but it's true. You know, I mean, this is my house. I'm anchored here. It doesn't cost me anything to anchor. I use my kayak to go in and shore. I don't spend petrol. You know, I get in an auto rickshaw and I go up into town and maybe buy some cabbage and some cucumbers, you know, to have at night or something, have a salad. You know, and that's, maybe I go to the movie. You know, I might go to a movie, but I don't spend a lot of money. I just, I don't spend it because I don't have it. You can't spend what you don't have. Although there's a saying, they say the two happiest days in a boat owner's life is the day he buys his boat and the day he sells it. So, but I found that I live a enjoyable life. There's very little I trade for it.